Hello, welcome to the SEO Wolf podcast. And today's topic is about the power of changing locations. And if you've listened to one of my previous podcasts about rapport, wide and deep, I suggest you listen to that podcast before you go ahead. So, what we talked about in those podcasts was actually, I'll explain it to you. You don't have to listen it to again. I'll just give you a gist of it. What they talked about is rapport. There are two kinds of rapport: deep rapport and wide rapport. So everyone knows about what deep rapport is. That you're talking about something you both have a deep interest in, and you're talking about that particular topic and deep, and you somehow get a rapport on it. But today's podcast will be on how to get a wide rapport that a lot of people are not aware of, and it's kind of a very easy technique. So basically, what wide rapport is, you have a rapport on a lot of different topics and different things, because if the only thing that you have is deep rapport with someone, if you go in a situation where they're not those kind of things you don't talk about and those kind of things are not relevant, the person will find that you don't have much in common besides those things. So that is important that you create a wide rapport with someone, and that is very easily done by just talking about different topics and those kind of things. But in just one conversation it sometimes becomes a little difficult to get in the right context to talk about different things. So that is where changing locations comes in. So what happens is, if you visit different locations with someone, the more locations that you spend time with, what registers in someone's mind is those kind of different locations enter as a lot of time being spent together. And even if that might be 10-15 minutes that you spend together in different locations, that could if you change the locations where the time was spent, it somehow, not it's not a scientific thing, it's kind of like for marketers, what we have just studied what works and we found what works and we do that. It's kind of those kind of things. So the more locations you change with someone, the more the thing they've spent more time with you. So that is the reason. And if you're spending more time with them, uh, the more things you can talk about with them, the more shared experiences that you have together. And if someone follows your lead, I tell you to, yes, let's go to this place, let's go to that place, let's sit here, let's stand there, let's take a team from there, let's spend some time at that place. If you're doing this, you're also complying to someone, so, or that person is complying to you. So there's an element of compliance that is going on. So that also helps, that it establishes some kind of compliance in the mind. So you heard those kind of sales closing, like when they say that it's a very basic sales techniques that they teach, that you need to get a set of yes, yes, yes in your sales pitch, so that you need your customer to agree to two or three things before before you ask a question where they eventually say yes to. So the same thing is there in compliance, is basically you're trying to get someone to follow your instructions. So that is happening in white repo. So it is kind of a powerful technique in the sense that, say you just met someone who might, let's say you're interviewing someone who could be your next founder, or you just met someone who was is a potential date, or you just meeting a friend in general, whatever is the situation. If you meet someone and if you end up changing different locations, what registers in someone's mind is that a lot of time being spent rather than just spending all that time in one location. So if you do that, if you just do that, if you uh, even if you are not selling something, if you are not the other techniques are not so good with you, if you just do this, it will be far more effective than a lot of things that you could do. So that is why I was saying it's a powerful technique, because even if your pitch is not so good, if you eventually end up changing locations and having a different kind of experiences, you'll kind of build a wide rapport with that person over time. So this if you see a lot of movies, they say that this is the same thing that happens, that that person, the two people who didn't used to like each other, but they end up having some kind of shared experience together, and due to some circumstances, and they end up liking each other. This is exactly what happens in those kind of situations. So they're using the concept of wide rapport. So this kind of things happens unknowingly, but there's no way you could have an understanding of it and use it to your advantage, as maybe if you're selling situation, or maybe if you're dating, those kind of things. But that's all. It is important that it's also a measure of compliance, that you understand that if someone does not want to move to that location with you, or is not comfortable with even changing locations, or just sitting somewhere, you'll be able to understand where you are with that person. You might be able to understand that if that person does not want to go to that location, or this and basically not compliant, they might not be compliant with buying something from you, or maybe any partnership that you might be thinking in the future, and those kind of things. So you can also get a level of understanding of those kind of things. So it's kind of a bit advanced concept, but this is also a thing. It's a very nice way of getting, instead of just asking some people, they ask questions that in sales, that to test if that person wants to buy, and those kind of things. So this is also a measure of testing compliance. So that is how you can, there's another way you can use this. Other than that, you should try this. There's no way you should not be trying this with anything. And I end up doing this unconsciously every time. So it's kind of built in, but I think you should be doing it consciously every time. Whenever you're meeting someone, try to change location, just not because staying at one location is boring and those kind of things. But if you're actively consciously, if you think that you need to build rapport with that person, and sometimes it can be difficult to just stick to one topic with someone and discuss that in the long term. So if that does not work, you can use this technique. And that's all for today. It is a powerful concept, and hope you gain something from it. Thank you for listening to SEO World. This is Harwin signing out.